Hi, everybody. It's April Rashad, certified nutritional consultant. And viruses, colds, and flu seem like what everybody is talking about. And they're all asking what's the best way to protect yourself, especially because we're in the middle of cold and flu season while I am recording this. And also, there's been a recent outbreak of the coronavirus. So that conversation just sort of brings me to the basics, which are obvious protective measures. Probably all of you are already doing, like washing your hands frequently. By the way, just with warm water and soap, no antibacterial soap. We'll talk about that in a second. Exercising, because your lymphatic system does not have a way to be able to push lymph through without muscular contraction, and it has no pump. So exercise is the best way to really boost your immunity, is just one reason. Getting enough sleep, and of course, a lot of greens in your diet, a lot of fruits are going to bring you a lot more nutrients to be able to give your body the immunity boost that it needs. Drinking water, and plenty of it. Most people will tell you that the rule of thumb is take your weight in pounds, cut it in half, and that amount in ounces is really your target. Obviously, if that's way off from what you're doing right now, you'll just want to ease up to that. But water is a great way to be able to flush toxins and things through your body and give it enough hydration to be able to perform all of its functions efficiently. And then there's other antibacterial and antiviral, that should say viral supplements and foods that we could be eating as well. So things like garlic in your diet, elderberry, pineapple, ginger, and then supplements or other foods, things like honey, aloe, Wellmune, echinacea, and different vitamins and minerals like C, D, and zinc. And D is the one that we're really going to hit on today, but these are all really good ideas to kind of try to feed them into your diet that's just going to boost your immune system. Things you want to avoid, though, might be surprising. So antibacterial soap, I know people who love to Lysol their houses and bleach things and get out the antibacterial soap every chance that they get, but that's actually not a great idea. So I'm not saying, not to keep a little bit of Purell on hand, because if you don't have the ability to wash your hands with soap and water, obviously that's going to be your next best bet. But as much as you can, use non-toxic, non-chemical based things just to keep things clean, you're going to be just fine. But what happens with antibacterial soap is it makes you resistant in case you do need antibiotics. So that's not good. Also, it's killing all the good bacteria, and your skin is the largest organ. So that antibacterial soap gets right through your skin and into your body. Plus, a lot of antibacterial soaps today have something called triclosan, which is a common chemical that's added to those soaps, and they can really create a toxic buildup and disrupt hormone function. So we want to stay away from antibacterial soap. Over-the-counter meds for fevers is the other thing. I know, just because we're healthy in our family doesn't mean my kids or we don't get sick from time to time, but anytime that you can let a fever do what it's supposed to do would be really beneficial. So I know sometimes we see 102 fever, 103 fever, and we want to hit the Motrin or hit the Tylenol right away. But if you can stave off of that, that's what's going to allow your body to really fight off infection and fight off virus. So you can let your fevers go even higher than that if you're hydrated and you're being monitored, and you're doing cold cloths and stuff on the neck and the arms. But I think that people jump to the Motrin or jump to the ibuprofen or the Advil or things like that, and those are things we want to try to avoid. Plus, it's going to give your body the feeling that you can do more, and then you really can put yourself at risk for an infection to actually stay longer or a virus to actually stay longer. And now I want to talk about vitamin D, because if there's one thing that you could do amidst all those other things, it'd be great if you could just kind of keep them at top of mind. If somebody said to me, what's the one thing that you can do to boost your immune system? This is what it is right now. And we know that we get vitamin D from the sun, but honestly, you would have to have 42% of your skin exposed for at least 20 minutes a day. I know for me up north in New Hampshire, that's a difficult thing to do, especially in the colder months, and not even having lotions and makeups and things that might already have SPF in them. But that's a tough thing to do. And the thing is that even in the sunny states and all around the United States and globally, we are still deficient at a very high level. 1 billion people, they say, worldwide. This is just of people that have been, measured for that. You may know even yourself, you're like, geez, I haven't had my vitamin D levels tested. So how would they even know if you are deficient? But I work with some doctors who say that in pediatric offices, when they've tested people in October, November up in the Northeast, 100% of the kids that they're testing are deficient. So we know at least half of our population is deficient, but a lot of people, even if they're not deficient, they're not at optimal levels. And there's so many health benefits that you can access if you are. So let's talk about deficiency first, because it's scary. If you are actually deficient, you may be somebody who's getting sick often, or when you're sick, you don't recover quickly. You could have a wound that just seems to like stay there forever. Obviously, we know for bone loss, hair loss, that's a big thing that vitamin D, right? It helps to lay down calcium for bone. But, you know, a lot of people don't think about muscle pain or fatigue and tiredness, depression, moodiness, bone and back pain as being symptoms of vitamin D deficiency, but they are. And so you can also increase your risk once you're deficient of different kinds of conditions or diseases. So you can increase your risk of asthma, respiratory issues, cardiovascular disease, 16 types of cancer, obesity, osteoporosis, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, colds and flus, and cognitive decline. So it's a big deal. There's a vitamin D receptor in every cell in your body that tells you how important this hormone actually is. And I know we call it a fat soluble vitamin, but really it reacts more in your body, is really more considered a hormone. So here's a few facts. Studies have now shown that vitamin D is boosting your immune system by 3 to 5 times, and it's 6 to 10 times more effective than a flu shot. So listen, even if you got a flu shot already, don't you want to make sure that, let's say you got, you know, I know a lot of people this year, they got the flu shot, but what they got is the flu later, it was the other strain. And we know that this can happen, right? So you might have had a 50-50 shot of being able to ward it off, but what if you do get it, especially if you're elderly, especially if you're a kid? That's going to put you at a higher risk if you do get a flu. How about getting a milder version? How about giving your body, you know, antibodies so that it can fight off more effectively any kind of infection or flu or virus that you do get? You know, it's it's an antioxidant, it's got anti-inflammatory benefits. There's over 2,000 genes that it regulates the expression of, including those in the immune system. And so it's just a really, really important nutrient. There's some great studies that have been out there, and one of them was just recently cited to say that we, you know, are less likely to report acute respiratory infections like influenza or the common cold than people who were not taking vitamin D supplementation. And even if people were taking, you know, vitamin D, if they were really deficient before, it actually cut their risk in half for getting some type of a respiratory infection. People with higher vitamin D levels also saw a small reduction in risk. So like about 10%, which is about equal to the protective effect of like a flu vaccine. So the thing is that when you do take a vitamin D supplement, you can get it a lot of different kind of places. I have just found in my practice that absorption and quality matters. I work with a lot of different manufacturers' products for different reasons, but I like the isotonics version of a vitamin D because of a few reasons. One, it includes K2, which really helps to amplify the absorption of D3. Two, it's isotonic capable. That means it's a powder. You mix it with a specific amount of water, and it doesn't have any binders, fillers, GMOs, gluten, dairy, none of that, but it's got a high bioavailability because when you ingest it, your body does not need to break it down. It's recognized immediately in your stomach to allow it to go to the small intestines where it's going to be absorbed. So it's just very easy to take. It tastes great, and you know you're going to get the bang for your buck in terms of being able to absorb the nutrient. So the question is, you know, how much do you take? And really, it's best to have your levels tested to really be able to answer that accurately. And remember, vitamin D is fat soluble. What that means is that it's not flushing out of your system every day. So it's one of those things where you can control the dosing by taking, you know, more one day and then maybe skipping a day, or we'll talk about a vitamin D hammer that you can do as well. But being deficient is considered to be under 30. So if you have your levels tested and you were at 25, 29, that means you're deficient. Your doctor will tell you, or your lab results will tell you you're not deficient if you're at 30 or above, but we know that optimal levels to really be able to access those health benefits I talked about is really more like 55 to 80. So just because you're not deficient doesn't mean you've really got a boosted immune system or that you're really helping to ward off different conditions and diseases in the future. So there were some other studies, and this was really interesting. Let's say you got the flu shot, but you got a respiratory infection, you got bronchitis, or you got the flu instead. It was just a different strain. So there's something called a vitamin D hammer that was sort of coined by one of these doctors, and it's very interesting. It's two ways that you can do it. One is that you could take a 50,000 IU dose of vitamin D in one shot one day, which is not atypical, by the way. When somebody's deficient, a doctor is typically going to prescribe them, so to speak, 50,000 IUs a week. Their vitamin D that they're prescribing or telling you where to get it is no different than what I'm talking about. They're just talking about dosing. But if you're sick, you can do that same type of thing where you can hammer your yourself with a large dose. Some doctors even use more. Or you could do like 10,000 IUs 3 times a day for 2 to 3 days. So what's so cool about that is that you're going to have a complete resolution of symptoms typically in 48 to 72 hours, according to studies. So, and they've done studies to show that that level of vitamin D is used safely, and it's never shown to be toxic, especially because so many people are at such low levels, either deficient or just barely adequate. So there's so many great studies that are out there. It shows, this is showing you the percentage of disease reduction with vitamin D at different levels. So like if you were just in the deficient or you know, adequate range, you can see how like it's not going to do anything to avoid, you know, diabetes, lymphomas, different kinds of cancers, or different kind MS, things like that, heart attack. But when your levels are higher, then you really are going to start to be able to access the benefits of the D. So the takeaways here is that, listen, there's a lot of things that can boost your immune system, but if I was asked for like making the best pick for what you could do and why this nutrient is so incredibly important, is because of all the benefits you can get from it. Less fatigued and enhanced energy levels. That's a big one, you guys. Sometimes you just feel like you slept and you just can't have the energy the next day to like really get through your day positively. But bone health, we know bone health and density and hair loss, these are all things that vitamin D has been known for in the past. But what about, aiding in hormone balance and helping with weight loss and reduction of certain cancers or protection against heart disease, enhancing your immune system, especially, with cold, flus and infections on the rise, and improving your mood and of course, less depression. So all these are such a great way. My favorite is the Isotonics Vitamin D, which comes in that powder form, like I said, as the #1 pick for boosting your immune system.